U.S. helicopters used in the war zone overseas are getting some much needed upgrades thanks to personnel at the Corpus Christi Army Depot. The depot making that announcement today. This is one of the Army's Black Hawk helicopters that'll be part of a major system overhaul, said to be 40 years in the making. The changes include updating the aircraft systems from analog to digital and include large screens that are built right into the windshield, something Army officials say will make training faster and easier, ultimately saving taxpayer money.
So the train up for the pilots will be synergized, and we'll be able to save a lot of taxpayers' money with the aircraft. The pilots will be able to be more familiarized with the aircraft sooner.
And he says the upgrades on some 760 of those choppers are already well underway and that they will help ensure that the choppers will last about 20